If there is one thing that I love even more than reading, that would be planning the book I'm going to read. And because it's a new year, I absolutely need to do a bit of a reset. I have Christmas nails still on. There is a Christmas tree staring at me that I'm choosing to ignore. And most importantly, I have a TBR that needs to be crafted. I need to figure out what books I absolutely must read this year, some new releases I don't want to miss, and just generally get set for the new year. We have some beautiful sun. I'm probably just gonna like lay in this living room for a little bit. And yeah, that's the intention. So we're gonna go get to that. Let's get into the day. Okay, so first point of call is my Notion board. I use this thing for literally everything. I have a TBR that I store on Notion. That's how I've tracked my books for the last few years, and I love it. It's really simple, honestly. It's nothing fancy. I essentially just have the title, the author, the month I plan to read it, the status, and then if there's any other specific tags. So for example, this year I want to read more widely. So I've added additional tags to make sure that I'm not just reading in one genre. So in order to do that, I just want to keep tabs on how that's going. I've already created a bit of a list here, but I need to narrow it down because I currently have over 100 titles. And considering I read about 50 this year, yeah, to be fair, this was a relatively slow reading year for me. There was a few months where I just didn't read because I was moving countries or doing month-long trips through Italy. Not mad about. Is that a good spot? Okay. Alright, so we are absolutely going to ignore the fact that that tree needs to be dealt with right now because it is so beautiful. I want to get outside at least for a little bit because it is so unpredictable here. In one day you can have 4 seasons and it is sunny now, so I'm gonna go get it while I still can. And then while I'm out, I'm gonna go get my nails done, and then we will probably multitask while I'm there. Actually, probably gonna have a little look at my list on my phone, maybe knot that one down a little bit, or I'm gonna read a little bit. I'm trying to decide which book to bring actually. I really wanted to start the year off with reading some of my favorite books. I think I might do that, mostly through Happy Place, which is one of my favorites. So I might move on to another one. Decisions, but anyway, we're gonna get ready. Okay, so while I was out getting my nails done, I had a little look through my list and I honestly had a bit of a hard time narrowing it down. I currently have 115 on my TBR for 2025 and it's not going well. I haven't cut it down. Also, just fun hack for anyone who uses Notion. This is not sponsored. I just genuinely love this platform so much. There's a widget and I have it on my home screen. And it's amazing because Goodreads is so unreliable. I'm constantly updating this as my main platform so I can kind of access my books at any time. Once I finish a book, I update it there. And then I can update all my other platforms at a later time. That's just how I do it. Anyway, so I have 115 on that list and I could not narrow it down. I was having a hard time. So I'm a very visual person, and part of why I wanted to figure out this list is because I really want to start a reading journal this year. And so I was like, well, maybe if I just like print them all off, I can kind of visually have a look at like what are the most important ones. So that's kind of what I've done. I have printed off all the teeny tiny books because I think that they're adorable. Oh no, they're going everywhere. I have done that. I've started cutting them up and then I'm going to take Maya for a walk. But then later today, I'm going to sit down and start my reading journal, which will be fun. In terms of absolute must reads for this year, I haven't come up with like a definitive list or anything like that, but a few of the absolute musts that I'm just like seeing off of the top of my head. Will of the Many is probably one of the highest up there. I have just heard such good things about it, but it's such a beast that I just keep putting it off. So that's a definite. There are some really fun books that are coming out this year that I've kind of researched and have thus added them to my TBR. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls sounds amazing. Another one of my absolute musts for this year is to read the 5th season. That has just been on my list for so long and for so many reasons. It won the Nebula Award for Fantasy, I want to say. It won an award for like one of the most prestigious awards for fantasy for all 3 books in the series, which I don't think has ever been done before, which is wild. which also ticks off another one of my reading goals, which is to read about characters in their 30s, because it's so easy in the fantasy genre, which I love to read in, to just pick up books about 17-year-olds because there's a lot of them. I also just want to read about more diverse experiences and in my 30s, so I want to see more representation of that. Gosh, there's so many others. This one is one I'm hugely excited for. Death of the Author. This is probably one of my most highly, apart from Onyx Storm, most highly anticipated reads of the year. It's essentially an author who's struggling to get published. She keeps getting turned down. I don't know, a bunch of stuff goes wrong in her life. And so she locks herself in a hotel room and starts writing about AI and the future. And apparently it's this like interweaving of reality versus, it sounds amazing. I want to read my first Brandon Sanderson. I haven't yet read anything from the Cosmere. I have both The Way of Kings and Mistborn. It's behind me here. Look, we have so many. Also, one of the other things I want to tick off is I love dystopian and I love sci-fi, but I just tend to gravitate more to fantasy, and then I just alternate with romance, and I just have such a fun time in both of those that I kind of forget that I love everything else. So I have neglected a lot of classics. Oryx and Crake is on there. Andy Weir. Hail Mary's on there. Dark Matter. That's another one. Third book of this series of the Legendborn series is coming out this year, and I haven't read the first book, but I heard great things. And I mean, I don't even know if it needs to be said, but Emily Henry, I read her entire backlog last year, bar one. I haven't read People We Meet on Vacation because I am saving it. I adore this woman, as with everyone else on the planet. You know, we could go on all day. We could literally be here all day. Anyway, I'm going to keep cutting these up, and then I'm going to go for a walk, and then I'll come back later and we'll sit down and we'll start doing my journal. All right, took Maya for a walk, and now we're going to move on to... I have gone for a low-key journal. I think it's like an A5. It's adorable. It's by Paper Blanks. I know a lot of people go for the dotted, but this cover was just too pretty to pass up, so it's lined. I don't care. We're keeping things very simple throughout this. I sat down the other day to start this journal, and I did this little double page spread, which I quite like it. It's very cute. It's literally just copied from Pinterest. If you're like me and you can't really think of things, type in book reading journal into Pinterest and you will find everything. So I've got this little board of just all these different little inspiration. I'm going to make that live, so if you want to check it out, go over there. But this was the original. We kind of get the idea. I drew Maya in there and it's really bad. It looks nothing like a dog. Anyway, so that's started. That's going to track my books for the year. I have, this looks terribly ugly, but we're going to have a book of the year based on which is the best of the month. Book bingo. I want to try and read more widely, so I figure if for stepping outside of my comfort zone, have like a little box for that thing. I feel like that's going to help me keep tabs on that. And then I'm going to record my book formats as well. I recently moved into the house that we're in. Before that, I was traveling for years. And so I would occasionally get paperbacks, but they would always be donated paperbacks and I would redonate them when I was done, which was a good system. It worked. And then I got a Kindle. And once I had a Kindle, it was hard to go back, you know? I pretty much went exclusively between audio and Kindle, but now that I'm back in the house, I kind of alternate between the three, and I'd be very curious to see how that actually balances out in the end, because it kind of helps inform my purchasing decisions in the future. Then that brings me to January. Yeah, so we're gonna sit down, we're gonna finish this. I just got these actually, I ordered them the other day, and hence why I've had to play. Midliner. They are the highlighter gods. We're going to sit down and we're going to continue to do this. I have a few books that I've already read that I'm going to try and put in there. And then I'm at least going to try and plan out my January reads, figure out what kind of books I'm in the mood for. So yeah, we're going to kind of get into it. So I was originally really convinced that I wanted to buy a template of a book journal, so something that already had prompts and kind of an outline because of the drawing issue. Like, we're not going to look too closely at this. But I must say that even though I don't know if I'm going to continue doing this in the future, it might be helpful to have more of a framework. I'm not going to lie, it's really nice to just have a creative outlet that isn't tied to anything productive. I mean, I guess there's a sense of achievement when you finish, but not in the same way. It's more just like mindlessly doodling is kind of the vibes. Anyway, of all the books I read, it's so easy just to look back and be like, oh yeah, that was about this. But you forget the great quotes or the important moments or the key takeaways. It's so easy just to like keep running ahead into the next book and the next book. So even if my drawing is terrible, it's quite nice to take a sec to reflect and go a little bit deeper than just like a Goodreads review or a Fable review. It's kind of nice to put a visual to something so verbal. Anyway, I get it. I get why people do this. Well, yesterday ended up being incredibly productive, but also incredibly relaxing and very chill, which is perfectly aligned with some of the goals I want to bring into 2025. It's perfect for this little reset. Today, all I have to take off is dismantling this Christmas tree, and I want to do a little bit of goal setting, figure out what I want to move forward to in 2025, and I'm probably going to end the day just by reading a book, ushering in 2025 the best way I know how. So let's do it. Okay, so we're actually gonna go to my office, which I don't think I've filmed in my office yet, because you'll see why. Hold on, I'll show you. This is why. Pretty bare. Not much going on here. So this is pretty much it. We have standing desk and we have my books. Yeah, I pretty much set those two things up in the first day and was like, well, I'll deal with the rest later. And then it was Christmas and there was a mirror there that I absolutely had to remove. And I haven't figured out what I'm putting there. So that's there right now. So anyway, we're probably gonna do a redecorate at some point, but for right now, this is it. I'm gonna get my computer. So one of my first goals for 2025 is to read 70 to 100 books. I'm giving myself a window because I read around 50 this year and that was pretty on and off. So I feel like that's a fair goal. But honestly, I just want to read more books and more diversely. So I think the number that I reach is less important than the kinds of books I read, because I also read a lot of fantasy, and a lot of fantasy books are 500, 600 pages, and this is not comparable to 300-page books. Another thing that I'm really stoked with the journaling yesterday is because that also ticks another one of the boxes. I want to start to be a bit more creative outside of my work because I am a working writer. I freelance for clients. I just think having a healthy outlet for creativity that isn't tied to that work, that isn't tied to income, is really healthy and something I want to do more of. I think I have a lot of other goals I'm living in the UK at the moment, so I want to travel a bit more locally, which is kind of fun, and I want to take advantage of that. The fact that Europe is so close, and the fact that I can even do that, which is really cool. And I think last but not least, one that I find a little bit tricky is making more room for slowness and embracing my femininity. I think that's something that I have in the past really ignored and felt the need to busy myself, overachieve, whereas this year I really want to embrace like just little things like playing around with my wardrobe and getting my nails done, just like little girly things that I just have pushed off to the side in the past, but just really help me appreciate the beauty of life. So I think I really want to do more of that. I'm gonna sit here for a little bit and kind of map that out for myself, write a few goals, write a few dreams. Then we're gonna go get the tree and then read a book. And I think that'll be it.